True Crime Guys podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
It's Halloween season. Picked a great case this week for Halloween season.
Woo! Yeah, because, I was thinking about the suggestion on Patreon that we got from Tisha, and she was talking about doing a fictional character.
Tisha's already gotten enough suggestions that we've already done, okay?
That's true. She's killing it.
Give somebody else a try, Tisha.
She only hits home runs. But we met her in the middle with this one, because this is kind of this is based on a true story, but there's a lot of cool ghost story shit we can mix in here.
We read a book that we'll talk about once we get into it.
That was a complete waste of time.
No, it wasn't.
No, it was entertaining.
I highly recommend this book. It's a lot of entertaining.
Yeah.
It's just, theatrical
it's
entertainment.
It's like a play.
Yes. It's fantastic.
But that lady that reads it, man, come on. She's killing me.
I know, right? Yeah, the narrator of it. I didn't mind her so much, except when she tried to do other people's voices.
Yeah.
Then it got a little squirrely.
Well, it's because every male sounded like a 75-year-old pedophile. So.
Like he was choking on a chicken bone while she was talking.
My dear. I was like, damn, every dude sound like this? Wasn't this dude like 21?
I know they all smoked back then, but damn. Yeah, and also this week's case brought to you by Kansas. What's up, Kansas? We know the Kansas people love us.
Kansas.
We're just gonna have to go out there. It's gonna have to happen.
We do need to go out there. Maybe we'll catch a Chiefs game. Not.
Yeah.
No. I'm just kidding.
When they play the 49ers, we'll have to go out there and watch the Niners stomp them out again.
I don't think that's going to happen.
One can dream, right?
One can dream.
All right, let's get into this week's case.
All right.
What do you like to do for fun? You like music?
Much folklore and legend surrounds the Benders. John Bender, his wife, Elvira Bender, John, Jr.,
and the young and attractive Kate Bender. It is a tale of deception. It is a tale of greed. It is the tale of the mysterious.
Not cool. Not fucking cool. You have no fucking idea how not fucking cool that shit is.
She claimed to possess psychic abilities, including the power to communicate with the dead.
It's about the only thing she loves more than bashing in brains.
He would emerge from behind the curtain with a hammer, raining blows down upon the skull of his victim. Bleeding Kansas one body at a time, 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 at a time.
All right, let's jump into it. Our case this week.
It's the Bloody Benders.
The Bloody Benders.
Or,
now, we need to
as
do this.
they're unfamiliarly known.
I was going to say, we need to do this every week. I didn't tell Michael that I did this, but I came up with a new name for them. Although Bloody Benders is fantastic, and it's perfect. And honestly, I would go with that over mine, but mine's better in entertainment value. It's funnier.
Okay.
The Sauerkrauts of Kansas.
The Sauerkraut.
They were German.
They were German. Well, at least two of them were.
Sauerkrauts of Kansas.
The Sauerkrauts of Kansas. Jesus. That just makes them sound like they're good for you.
Yeah, so the Bloody Benders is the case we're doing this week. I'm really shocked that only like one other podcast that I recognized has done it.
I think it's just because there's not enough actual facts
out there. But, I mean, it's still really entertaining. I mean...
Oh, definitely. And that's what...
It's because it was so long ago.
That's what we're here for.
Right.
All in all. So
we like to throw some
We're not
fiction.
here to bring you facts.
No.
Get the fuck out of here if that's what you're here for.
Right? We try, but come on. We got things we did wrong. Shit we got wrong at the end of the show today, by the way.
For real. We're actually going to do it this time.
Yeah.
Not just say it and then not do it.
Yeah. So the Bloody Benders, it's kind of sold as like America's first serial killer family.
Yeah, but they were just kind of people that were, their ages matched that
time
outlook or whatever.
Well, they were killing people well before for how like what they did and what. It's kind of surprising that their name isn't bigger. Like I've never heard of the Bloody Benders. I just was like doing some research on what case we should do this week, and I was like, I want to do a serial killer family because I just watched Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original, one of the best fucking horror movies ever made. One from '70s. Yeah, fantastic movie, and this has a lot of feel to that.
But if you think about it, really the best serial killers we probably don't know anything about.
Probably.
Because that's what makes them the best serial killers.
No shit, just people coming up missing. Like we don't know where the fuck
they just
went.
know how to pick their victims because they're people who maybe aren't that well known in society and
Right.
whatnot, and cover their trails well.
Yeah, but these people, they were killing in America before H.H. Holmes was, which is one of the big ones.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
like 1800s.
His murder castle was actually built in 1886, and he wasn't actually killing until that fair in like 1891 or something.
Yeah.
And then Carl Panzram, we did a whole show on
early
him.
1900s.
Early 1900s. We talked about how long ago that was. This
Yeah.
one was even before that.
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper was killing around the same time. That was obviously over in Great Britain, but
Right.
around the same time as Carl Panzram. So this is pre all that. This is the westward expansion.
Isn't it weird
in
that-
America when we're first settling and moving across, and
Right.
America's becoming
Yeah, you just
what
go
it
out, claim your land, and say, this is mine.
Right.
But it's weird that Jack the Ripper and the Bloody Benders were never caught. Isn't
Yeah.
that strange?
Well, it was so long ago. Like you said, you just pretty much hop a train and fucking just
Just
become
move somewhere else.
Fucking put on a fake mustache.
Right. I guess they
Take on a
weren't-
new name. You just say, I'm this guy now. You don't even
Yeah.
have to have proof. It's
Yeah, I guess their fingerprints weren't on file, so
yeah.
yeah.
No DNA, none of that shit, man. Same time when you could point at a guy and be like, that's the guy that did it. And just, all right, hang him.
Hang them,
Hang 'em
hang
up.
them high on the streets.
Right.
But it's I don't know. It's just strange that they made it as long as they did.
Right.
Still, though,
Yeah, it is. But they were a tricky bunch, man. And the bunch we're talking about,
they were good at blending in.
it's a so-called family. It consisted of 4 members. It was Pa, whose name was actually John Flickinger. He was born around 1810 in Germany or the Netherlands region,
They're
somewhere
kinda
over there in
unsure,
Europe.
Yeah.
He was the main man of the group. Older. He's
He
older.
was the muscle. Put it that way.
Yes. Yes.
People
Seemed to be
falsely
the most
assumed that he was the brains, but he was not.
seemed to be the most brutal of the group.
Yeah, I think he would have been a serial killer by himself if he didn't have a
Yes.
family.
He seemed to enjoy killing.
He just enjoyed the companionship in the serial killing.
right. And then you got Ma, who
Right.
her name was Elvira.
Who's the most selfish person in the group.
A lot of this stuff wasn't known until later on. We're saying their
Right.
names. These names weren't found out until many years later. They were just
Right.
known as Ma, Pa, and then Kate, who was the young, beautiful daughter, and John Jr., who we now know wasn't actually even a member of the family. That really only the 2 real family members were Ma and Kate.
Yeah.
Kate was Ma's daughter.
Yeah, she was like her 5th child
Yeah,
out of
she
12.
had 12 kids. She had several husbands in the past, many, not even several, like many, like 12 or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
This
One for each kid or something.
Ma was the sociopath part of the group.
Yeah, a lot of her husbands died in mysterious ways, like
Yeah, like poisoning their food.
or like head trauma,
Or head trauma.
like hammer to the head type of thing.
Right. He died eating soup. Oh, was it poison? No, she smacked him with a hammer.
Yeah. It's thought that maybe that's how she made her living, going from husband to husband,
That's
taking
definitely, yeah, it had to been.
taking their money, killing them, moving on to a new town, find another husband,
Right.
And eventually this family would end up buying land, or not buying land, settling on land in America, because during this time, Pa would claim 160 acres. This is in 1872 in Kansas. He would claim 160 acres, thanks to the Homestead Act, which, if you don't know what that is, basically it was signed into law by President Abraham Lincoln on May 20th, 1862. The Homestead Act encouraged Western migration by providing settlers 160 acres of public land. In exchange, homesteaders had to pay a small filing fee and were required to complete 5 years of continuous residence before they got actual ownership of the land. So it was basically encouraging people to come here, make use of this land, because we had so much land here.
Yeah,
so
just
few
giving it
people.
away.
Yeah, literally. I mean, you got to think how
Yeah.
many people are rich now because their great-grandparent
Oh,
came
absolutely.
here and took this 160 acres, made something of it for basically for a small fee, and now it's worth millions of dollars or whatever.
Yeah, but something else they did here, they also took advantage of John Jr. being an adult.
Yeah.
I think John Jr. was like around 22, 23, and then Kate was 20, 21.
So he got his own.
He got his own 160
adjoining-
plot
he got an
because he is an adult male.
Yeah.
So he also got, and they just combined the two.
Right.
Yeah.
So what is that, 320 acres? Trying to do math. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was an adjoining lot right next to it, and they would end up
course.
making John Jr.'s portion of it like an orchard for apples or some kind of a vegetable garden. I've heard both ways, but either way, that was where we'll talk more about this
Yeah.
orchard.
But a lot of the land was left
very
open.
good spot for bodies to go.
Hey, it's good fertilizer, I think.
Right. Yeah, so the family, they would end up claiming that land, and Pa and John Jr. would come out beforehand, before Kate and Ma would come out
Setting up shop.
from Europe, and they would set up shop there, build a house from scratch. It was just a
Yeah.
1-bedroom, like a studio apartment type home, just a small house,
Right.
1 room, and then they would end up using like an old canvas cloth, from like a carriage or something to make a partition which would divide the room into two parts.
Yeah, so they had like the kitchen or work area back there, and then they would serve the guests in the front.
Right. It was kind of silly, though. It's like the size of most people's master bedroom, and it's literally divided by a piece of canvas. And so you got like a supposed store in the front and like a dining table, and then there's beds behind the canvas thing where they would actually sleep and whatnot, and they would have guests. This was set up to be a bed and breakfast type of situation.
Yeah, kind of like a little inn, a little rest area.
And it was strategically placed. They bought this plot of land where it was hard for people to see what was going on. They found a plot of land to where if you're on the plot, you can see your neighbor.
It's high
but
enough
they can't
up.
see you.
The elevation was high enough, and they could see down. And they actually it was said that John Jr.'s plot of the land was like a very long, stretched out rectangle shape, and it actually went towards town. And they did that on purpose. That way, nobody could build on that huge stretch that comes to their property, so they could see for miles because no one would come from the other directions. So it would just be that one direction pretty much, and that was all their land.
This was bought. This wasn't something where they bought the land, they moved out there, and they're like, well, we could make some money by killing people out here. This was all planned out from the beginning. They bought. They found on maps the plot of land that would work perfect to where they could get away with this and not be found.
They weren't looking out the window drinking coffee going, this is a great place for murder. Right. You know what? I didn't think about it until now, Kate, but
I'm drinking out of this creeper mug and I'm just getting ideas.
Hey, look at this. Let's keep creeping out here.
Right. So they set up shop out there. They got their little store opened up. Kate and Ma come down, and it's time to open business here.
Yeah.
And they're, for a while, it seems like they're filling things out. They're having guests, and they're not killing right away. It takes a little while. And in the book,
oh God,
do we want to go into the book throughout, or do we want to talk at the end about all the silly stuff?
I think we could bring in the book situations as we go. Yeah.
Okay. So this is fiction. Okay.
Yeah.
In the book, they had it as though Kate could see.
Some sort of entity?
She had
a supernatural entity, a demon maybe?
It was sold at the beginning when she lived in the city. She met this hobo guy named Mr. Pips.
Yep.
And he was friendly to her, and they became friends, and then he died. He just disappeared one day.
Yeah.
But then later on, she started seeing him. He would come to her in like a different form, like a spiritual form, like a ghost, basically.
Right.
The ghost of Mr. Pips. Mm-hmm. And
typical black smog-looking figure with red eyes. You know the drill.
Exactly. And he had her best interest in mind. And there was a moment where she was working as a prostitute in the city out of dire needs because her mom, Ma, finally, I guess, couldn't find a husband.
I don't think it wasn't dire
off.
need. It was that Ma's lifestyle was failing because the money from her last husband was trailing off.
And she was getting older and less attractive.
And Kate was a pretty young girl and was like, oh, I'll exploit her to keep up this lifestyle.
Right. And so in the book,
Kate
is selling her body, and she gets with this guy, and Mr. Pips would always point her in the direction of the guy with the most money. And and this guy, Mr. Pips, was like, don't do it. He's this good-looking guy. He seems to have a lot of money. And against Mr. Pips' wishes, she goes and goes off with him, and then he beats her almost to death.
Yeah, rapes her, tortures her.
All this stuff. And so from that point, she started trusting Mr. Pips, and Mr. Pips, being a criminal formerly himself, and Kate going towards that direction of lifestyle. He saw the way her mom was. She kind of learned these things on how to rip people off. Really influential. She seemed, from the book, it's like it took it to the extreme, but Kate really did. She was the minds of this operation that would end up happening, truthfully.
But I think
she was very charismatic. She was a smooth talker, and she was the one who would coerce a lot of these people into the house, get them comfortable.
Right.
And then that's when the killings would happen.
But I think that emotional disconnect came genetically through her mother.
Right.
Like being able to just not love anybody.
Yeah.
Like she, if she could literally disconnect herself from anyone.
Well, we keep talking about this book. The book was called Last Meal by Paul Ibbotson.
Right.
If you wanted to read this book, I recommend it, but just keep in mind it's fictional, but it's good for Halloween
and it's sold
season.
as fiction. He's not saying that it's fact, but it's a good.
That being said, it is based on truth, but you just gotta kind of like keep in mind there's a lot of phoniness to it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Mr. Pips, and this is how she would choose her victims.
Right.
Mr. Pips would point, like he would just appear and point in the direction of the person that needed to be killed.
Right. Apparently, he followed her to Kansas.
Yeah,
and so he's there as well.
Well, he could do all kinds of unearthly things. He could jump like 100 feet. He could do all kinds of silly stuff in the book.
Right.
Anyway, so
he was like a vampire.
I don't know why we even started talking about Mr. Pips.
He's pretty much the most important character. Duh.
So back to reality, back to the truthful story. They would get there, they would open up the thing, and they were taking their time. And finally, what they would decide to do is prey on single travelers. There was, these men that would come through, mainly men, would come through on horseback, and they would be going from one place to another. Maybe they're heading to settle in a new western city,
Right.
and they're just traveling through Kansas. This is southeastern Kansas. This is Labette County, Kansas.
Okay.
Southeastern
Right.
Kansas.
And they had these rules too, where they didn't prey on like you said, they mainly looked for single men, and also people who weren't from anywhere close to the local town. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like that was a rule. There was basically two rules. You know, you don't kill families, you don't prey on more than one
Yes.
person at a time.
No local people.
and no locals.
No locals, especially any local powerful people,
Exactly.
which we'll see was end up ultimately being their downfall.
Right. Even though they weren't caught.
but
In
also-
the book, it was their downfall.
It also wasn't just single men on horseback. It was like Kate would try and learn things about them right away. Like that was
Yeah.
her job, was to, talk to them, get them to open up and start and see if maybe they had a lot of money on them somehow.
Mm-hmm.
See if maybe they had gotten some kind of a settlement in the past or an inheritance, or just kind of just get an idea for what kind of like money they were traveling with,
Right.
and then see if it was worthwhile for them to kill them, because they're trying to get the most for the bang
Well,
for
I
their
mean,
buck.
in that time, I don't think it was strange to just exploit your finances to people like that, because everybody was just good. Like you didn't worry about that type of thing
Right.
then, Like
Well,
these
I mean, if
people
you
were an
stole,
anomaly.
a lot of times you'd be hanged, so it's like
Yeah.
the risk was not worth the reward type
right.
of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But
it was-
apparently to the vendors, it was worth it.
Oh, well, yeah.
When you got an operation that was very successful, by the way,
It was very successful.
for a while.
I think that family cover really, really did it, man.
Yeah.
And then having a younger, the kids were great actors.
Right.
Like it said in the book as well. Even that was one of the things that transferred over that was kind of true, was that Kate and John Jr. could play a part.
Kate and John Jr. could have done this on their own, because
They
Mom
could
and
have.
Paul really, they didn't even speak English. Like they spoke
very broken.
90% German. It was Kate and John Jr. And it's said that John Jr. may have been the husband of Kate, actually.
Right.
They're obviously not brother and sister. We talked about the only true
Right.
blood relation was Kate and Ma. So,
Right.
And so it is thought that maybe even John Jr. was looked at by people in Kansas. That's the way they sold it, is they were actual real family.
Right.
Kate and John Jr. were brother and sister. It wasn't the truth.
Right.
But those two could speak fluent English. Mm-hmm. Kate was real charismatic, influential. She would, get these people to feel comfortable.
Right.
And so they start the killing. They bring in people, and the way they would do it is so fucking eerie and creepy. It's
It
so
is
Halloween
eerie.
season to me.
It is.
This partition that we talked about, the canvas piece of material that's coming
whatever,
down and
yeah.
splitting the room in two. They had a table that was strategically sat right in front of that piece
Mm-hmm.
of cloth coming down. And that was the dinner table. And
Yep.
so they would get these people to come in, they'd get them feel comfortable. Ma would cook them some porridge or stew or whatever.
Right.
Very house on the prairie.
Yeah.
Kate's sitting there being all, she's
Probably nice and warm.
Yeah.
Here in the winter.
They had a seat. They had a seat at this table that was known as the what did they call it? It was so creepy. The seat of honor is what it was.
Didn't Paul sit across from it?
Yeah.
As to signify, like, if you're another man, you're going to sit across from me,
Yes.
kind of. So it was obvious that where the other man was supposed to sit.
Yeah, and Kate would sit right next to them
Yeah.
as to make them feel comfortable.
Exactly.
And at a certain point, when the person was comfortable and dinner had been eaten, Paul would get up and go back behind the partition.
Yeah.
With John Jr. and Kate would be left alone to make the person feel even more comfortable.
Right.
It's just him and Kate talking.
Well, also she was trying to seduce them a little bit, kind of get
Yes.
them off their guard.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the way that it was set up with the lighting and everything, and the canvas was somewhat see through. You could see shadows and whatnot. They would be able to tell when the person's head was close to the canvas and in position, and with a hammer, using the silhouette as their target.
Yep.
They would strike the person in the back of the head with a hammer, either Paul or John Jr.
Yeah.
And they would try to hit him as hard as they could to basically kill him with one shot, and then. To finish him off, Kate would come up and slit their throat with a straight razor.
Right. I just got the funniest thought in my head, though. I just thought, like, what if the light had been moved to, like, to a certain angle, so the shadow would be
like the
projected
moon
to the
landing.
left or to the right?
It's like the moon landing.
No, like the shadow would be projected to the left or
Just
the right,
completely
and
missed.
Paul hits, and like you just see this hammer freaking fly hit this sheet right beside you while you're eating. What the
Right.
fuck?
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, there was at least a few times where the person was a little bit like felt just something wasn't right, and they would refuse to sit in that spot because they didn't want to put them. Most people, I think, are like, I'm not going to sit directly in front of someone in a car just because I've watched too many mob movies.
Yeah.
I'm not letting someone that I don't know sit behind me in a seat.
Right.
Like, I think people would feel a little weird, like there's just a sheet behind me and people are walking around behind me. This is a
Right.
little weird. So some people, supposedly, I don't know if they just made this up to interject themselves in the story.
Right.
But people at the time said afterwards, after it was discovered, like, yeah, I stayed there and I refused to sit in a seat, and all of a sudden Ma would freak out on me and start cursing at me in German and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
and so a couple people supposedly escaped because they wouldn't sit in that
'Cause they
fucking
wouldn't
seat
sit
of
in the seat.
honor.
That's right.
Wisely.
Yeah, and some people they just let go. I'm guessing those were poor people.
Exactly.
Because everyone they killed, and supposedly, according to the book, like Mr. Pips was picking these rich people. So according to the book, they didn't kill anybody that wasn't worth something.
Right.
But
Yeah, and so
Sure they
they're
did.
they're doing this, and they would basically kill the people. Kate would slit the throat, and I guess one of the first times, like the table broke, the bigger man sat down, and the table they ended up like adjusting things. They got a bigger hard oak table
Yeah.
that could withstand like a big man falling on it from
Right.
getting struck in the head with a hammer. It's just so creepy, man.
it is.
And so they're doing this, and they're getting away with some success. Kate is actually starting to make a name in the community. She starts working at a diner, right? And like they're becoming like little parts of the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're known as just German immigrants. I guess Kate and Ma are also having like a little side venture where they would have people come in to the bed and breakfast, and they would like tell their fortune and stuff like that, right?
Oh, yeah,
And they would
yeah.
also be like healers. They would claim to be
Ma kind of practiced in some of the dark arts and things like that.
Yeah, she
she was good with
supposedly-
like making
Potions.
and like different chemical reactions and stuff, poisons.
may
of
or may
course.
not have not poisoned husbands in the
Right.
past. The book goes into a lot of that. It's hard to tell how much of it's true.
Yeah,
Either way, like they're trying to make it seem as though they're just a normal family that has some talents as well. And like
Right.
they're having people pay to heal ailments with little herbal supplements and stuff that the family would make.
of course.
And so meanwhile, they're killing people that come through, and it's always people from out of state
Right.
that wouldn't be. It's like at the time you got to think that it's the mid 1800s. You still have
Mm-hmm.
Indians patrolling, people getting picked off by them sometimes. Robberies are
Well,
happening.
traveling long
There's
distance has its own hazards. I mean,
Yes.
just in the wild, the weather.
We've played Oregon Trail.
I mean,
How often do you make it through the game if you're traveling across?
I played Red Dead Redemption. I know how this shit goes down.
Right. So you got Indians who, I mean, I'm sure are responsible for picking off some
Yeah.
settlers coming through. You got different diseases at the time.
Right, right.
You've got these gangs that are running amok that are taking down railroads, or they're taking down trains and
Yeah,
stuff.
this is like the time of
Jesse
Jesse
James
James,
times, which of course in the book Jesse James makes an appearance.
Oh, no way. Get
an
real.
There's an underground layer. They had like a full
there is.
underground layer. Jesse James and
And,
his
hey, just in
outlaws.
case you guys didn't know, Jesse James is a stand-up guy.
Yeah, of course.
He is one. He is one classy son of a bitch.
Right. In the book, at least.
I think so.
Yeah. So like we said, they're picking these people that they think, it's just possible. They're going from the East Coast to the West Coast, traveling on
Right.
horseback alone. If they come up missing, it's not that crazy to think, the guy just something happened to him.
Right.
Who knows? Anyways, and they're using John Jr.'s plot of land, the adjoining plot of land to the Benders, with their apple orchard and everything to bury
Right.
the bodies. Mm-hmm. And so far they're getting away with it. They have a barn back there as well that if they had to, they could take the body there if someone would show up.
Right.
It said, I've watched a movie on YouTube. There was like even a theatrical film made on this, real cheesy, it's old.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know how they would, because I don't know how they were advertising this bed and breakfast, the Bender Inn. I don't know. What was it called? It had an actual name. Do you remember?
No, I don't. Because it wasn't very consistent either. So
Right.
I didn't really make a note of that. But what they would do is the road that they lived off of was a popular road.
Right.
So they would just kind of advertise as far as just being down there. Just being like, oh, hey, traveler.
Because in the
you know,
movie
we
it
gotta-
showed like Kate going down there and
Yeah.
like, seducing them over.
And I think that's relatively how it went. I mean, I think she just went down there
Either
and
her
started
or
a
John
conversation.
Jr. And there was a movie I watched where John Jr. blew up a bridge that people used to travel, like lit it on fire, and so people had to like stop and go, well, what are we gonna do? We can't travel. Oh, I got beds over here.
He's sitting there holding a gas can and a lighter. I got some beds over there.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm trying to look up the actual name of the bed and breakfast. Oh, what the hell is it called? The Bender Inn.
Bender
The
Inn,
day
man.
after the grave.
you
I
go.
saw it named something else though.
You know, it's strange that a one-room inn always has vacancies. It's crazy.
right. So strange.
Everybody wants to sleep outside,
There's a
underground. What the
Strange
fuck?
smell. There's like old brown stains all over the
Right.
fucking wood
The
floor.
apples are doing great, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they have the best apples around.
So they're being successful, and then they're also adjusting things to become more successful. I think it was said that there was like bullet holes all through their through the lodge afterwards when it was discovered.
Right.
Because maybe there was some mishaps where they got struck with a hammer, a person didn't die, they pulled a revolver and
sure.
tried to shoot. And so they started adjusting to become more efficient at killing, as a lot
Right.
of serial killers do. They learn by trial and error.
Yeah.
And at one point, they actually build a trap door. It makes this whole story even creepier.
Yeah, it does.
They actually build a trap door either underneath the kitchen table, which I've seen in some reenactments, and also I've seen just behind the partition, which makes more sense.
Yeah, I think it was just behind the partition.
I mean, if you're
tunneled
fucking
out.
sitting at a dinner table and you see like a square hole, there's no way it could have been real hidey. You know, maybe they put a rug over it. I
John
don't know.
Jr.'s popping up, tying your shoes together.
So stupid. Yeah, so they end up building a trap door, and below was like in the book it portrayed like a path, an underground tunnel that took
Yeah.
you to the barn, which I don't buy. I think it was just a hole down there that they would use to store bodies if someone were to show up to the inn
I think
right
the
after
barn
killing
was too,
someone.
was too far away.
Yeah, that would be a real undertaking
Jesus.
to do.
Yeah. Especially
For-
that time by hand.
Right, and you
Oh
got
my
Pa
God.
and John Jr. who are supposed to do this. Pa
Right.
being an older guy. Anyway, so they build this trap door, and below, we think it was just mainly like a storage room down there.
Yeah.
Where they would, if they had to, if someone came down the trail right after they had just killed somebody, and they didn't have time to put the body somewhere, they would just put the body down there. And it was said that when this hole was found, or this storage room down there
Right.
was found, it had an odor to it.
Oh,
it
hell
was
yeah.
just blood, like coagulated blood stains all over the place in there, because that was obviously.
Like, did they like finish it? Did they put like a floor in there, or was it just dirt? I mean, do you think?
I don't know if they
because I
used
feel like if it was
stone or
just dirt,
what.
everything would just biodegraded down in there, and you wouldn't have found anything. There had to have been something to hold in
I
those
think they used
substances.
stone or something
Yeah.
down there. But I think it was said that they would smack the person on the head with the hammer,
Right.
and then Kate would slit the throat down there to ensure that they were dead. Because
Yeah.
you got to think, if you get hit in the head, some people, they may be knocked out for a little bit, and you
Right.
think they're dead, but they're not, and then they come back to life, and then maybe that's how those bullet holes happen. So
Probably.
probably what would happen is they would hit him in the head, put him down in the trap door, and then Kate would slit their throat down.
Here's my
there.
thing: how often did they have to wash that partition? I'm like, there's so many cleaner ways to kill somebody.
I know, right?
And they're like doing it as bloody as possible. They're like slitting the main artery and hitting you in the head.
maybe it was a red partition.
Fountains of blood.
If they're smart, they would just make it red to begin
Just
with.
like a crimson, colored partition.
Yeah, blood red partition.
Yeah, just with like
like movie theater
It'll just look like tie dye after a while. Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah, that's weird. There's like a circular stain right where my head is positioned.
If I lean it back, look, it lines up perfect.
I don't know if I should sit here. Ma's freaking out on you.
Just sit the damn seat. Just sit the damn seat.
Exactly. Yeah. So now things start to go awry. Shit goes awry. That's our new motto.
Oh
right?
yeah, right.
Shit goes awry when in 1872 they've already gotten away with some success. They've killed
Yeah.
who knows, between probably 5 and 10 people at this point. And in 1872, a guy by the name of George Launcher and his daughter, he had an 18-month-old daughter. They had a kind of a storied past,
Right.
an unfortunate past. George Launcher's wife had died during childbirth of his daughter.
Right.
And I believe he had a son that had died too. I don't know. But anyways, they're traveling from Independence, Kansas to Iowa and traveling through, and they end up stopping at the inn. And George Launcher and his daughter would never make it to Iowa, never be seen.
Right.
Now, they were Kansas natives. This is a big screw up. In the book, they portrayed it as though they were not supposed to kill the
Yeah.
father and the daughter, but Pa did it because of his anger. He just liked to kill people.
Apparently Paul had like an internal like timer, and then when it went off, he needed to kill someone or he needed to fight or something. Like,
Now, that
he was
may
just
be
full of rage,
that may
according
just-
to the book.
Yeah, that may just be the book sensationalizing some things, but it does seem like they were a group that didn't like to take risks, and like the idea of them killing, unless he had like obviously made it obvious that he had like a big stash of money.
Yeah.
I don't know why they would.
Maybe the dude started asking too many questions, like, what are all these bullet holes?
Right, what's with the stain on the sheet?
Yeah,
back
what's
here?
with the stain? Like, maybe he was
What's
asking
with the
too much
odor coming
questions.
from this trap
'Cause
door in the fucking
Kate
floor?
did not like that. Like,
Right.
if they asked anything remotely related to any kind of murder, or anything,
Right.
I mean, they were immediately a target.
Right.
According to what we've read. So.
Yeah, and so they would come up missing, and this is where things would start to fall apart for the group, because George Launcher had a friend by the name of Dr. William York, who was a well-known guy in the community,
Right.
had some powerful friends and whatnot. And
Not to mention he's a doctor. I mean, it's not like doctors were aplenty then, so
Yeah.
they needed their doctors.
Dr. William York happened to be the neighbor and good friend of George Launcher, and it had helped out the Launcher family a lot. He had been there for George Launcher's childbirth, and I think he had been the one present for the wife's unfortunate death. Mm-hmm. And so he felt real connected to the Launchers. And
Right. So he's not that great of a doctor, so maybe it's not. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, see, I've heard that Mrs. Launcher had died during childbirth,
Right.
which is likely during the time. They didn't
Yeah.
have as good a medicine and practice,
Yeah.
doctor practices.
Understatement.
Or also that she had a sickness, I heard as well. I don't know
Maybe.
which one's true, but either way, I think Dr. William York played a part in it, whether she was dying slowly and he couldn't help save her, or
Right.
it was childbirth.
Well, like I said, I'm sure he had part in almost every birth there because there wasn't a whole lot of doctors. Are you
Right.
sure it was like called the doctor?
Right. Well, either way, Dr. William York would see in the paper that George Launcher and his daughter had come up missing and not made it on their trip to Iowa.
Right.
And he supposedly in the book he had lent a trailer and horse during hard times to Mr. Launcher for his travel. And
right.
you know, and like supposedly Launcher was going to pay him back, but Dr. York didn't expect it. Yada yada.
Right.
The police had found the horse and trailer out like abandoned somewhere, which obviously looked real fishy. Dr. York sees this in the paper and says, "I'm going out there.
Yep.
I can identify this. If it is their trailer, it'll be mine because I lent it to him. So
Right.
I'll know. I'll be able to identify right away.
Plus, I need my trailer back.
exactly
Hello.
right." And so, against his wife's wishes, he
Yeah.
travels off on his own, goes down to Kansas, and attempts to help out the investigation to find Mr. Launcher and his daughter. And he would never come back either. Now, we talked about Kate not liking people being suspicious.
Yeah.
Mr. York may have stopped at the inn during his travels out there.
The book actually portrayed it pretty cool.
Yeah. How did talk about how the book did it?
Right. So the doctor sits down at the table.
Yeah, he stops at the inn.
Yeah, he stops at the inn, obviously, and everything's good because apparently a few weeks before, John Jr. had got in a concussion where a pig ran over him or something. He hit his head on the fence. It was so crazy.
Yeah.
So he gets a concussion, so the doctor treats him for that.
Dr. York.
Right, Dr. York.
So, yeah,
the only doctor.
Paths crossing here.
Right. So when he gets to the house, he notices
John Jr.
And he's like, "Oh, hey, my boy." He's like, "How's your head doing?" or whatever. So he starts small talking, and then that gives him time for Paul to walk in. And Paul is sitting at the table cutting an apple. But the problem is the knife that Paul is using was, what was his name?
Dr. Launcher, or Mr. Launcher.
Mr. Launcher's custom-made knife. There was only one of this knife.
Right.
And the doctor knew that because he had asked Launcher about the knife before. And so he starts questioning him about the knife. He's like, and he immediately pulls out his pistol and points it at Paul. He was carrying a 380.
Right.
Apparently points it at Paul and is like, "You're going to tell me where you got that knife."
Yeah.
He's like,
You better have a good
and
answer
you
or
better
you're
have a
dead."
good answer. I'm blowing your head off.
Right.
And then Kate, being the smooth criminal that she is,
Yeah.
gets his attention, talks him out of it.
Gets him to lower the pistol.
Yeah.
Where she gets him with the straight razor, right? Something happens anyway. Doctor.
John Jr. gets him.
Right.
Yeah, in accordance to the book, and then Paul ends up killing him with that knife.
Okay. Well, either way, Dr. York ends up going out there to Kansas, and he doesn't come back. And
Right.
it's them. It's the Benders that got him.
Yeah.
Whether he stopped at the inn, that's the only way I can picture it happening. I can't picture them running into him on the trail. I think he stopped at the inn.
Right.
As most people do traveling through, they need a bed and they need a hot meal.
Right.
Maybe his wife didn't send him with enough food or whatever happened. He stops at the inn and he probably made it clear what he was out there for, looking for his friend, Mr.
Yeah.
Launcher, and his daughter.
Or maybe he saw John Jr. out there, like working in the field or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what drew him in.
Either
Maybe
way,
if that did happen.
Either way, he ends up missing, and now you've got Dr. York, who has powerful friends. His two brothers were real well known. He had one brother that was a senator. His name was Alexander York,
Jeez.
and a colonel, Ed York.
Oh, perfect.
The Yorks were not the kind of people that you want to fuck with.
Right.
And so after Dr. York comes up missing, the brothers, Colonel and the senator, they put out a big search party. They put out a big reward.
Yeah.
And it's on. Like,
Right.
people are now like actively searching. And there's already been a lot of talk in this small town, in this small community, about all these people that are coming up missing. And
Right.
they're able to look and go like, look, they made it through this part of town, which is north or whatever.
Yeah. What they're doing is, they were
They're heading
heading
eastward.
east. They're heading
Yes.
east. So they would go east past the Benders Inn, and then they would ask those farmers, have you seen this horse and buggy? Have you seen these people or whatever? And it was funny that none of them had.
Right.
None of them had. And according to the book, there was a reporter that was kind of on the Benders case. Mm-hmm. Kind of this snobby
Lafleur
reporter.
or some. It
Lafleur.
was he was
definitely French.
right.
Lafleur.
Yeah, with a douchey mustache.
Right. He had a douchey voice as well.
Right. I'm
Give it to him,
LaFleur. I'm
Margarita.
investigating some missing travelers.
Yes. Hold my notepad.
But if they
as I
were
look
to,
around.
but if they were to do some kind of a X's and O's like John Madden type board, and they'd go like, he ran through here, and then boom, and then there's no, and that was the end of the line. There's 16 travelers that have gone to this point. They've been seen here, and then they've never seen again.
Yeah, they've never seen again here.
The only X between these two dots is the Bender farm.
Right.
What's going on here?
Right.
Yeah. I wish I could do a John Madden accent. I can't. Or
Boom.
impression.
Boom. Boom. You get into the end zone and you score some points. Boom.
That's not too bad.
That's as close as I got.
Anyway, so yeah, like we said, their travelers are seen going, and then as soon as they get around where the Bender farm is, they're never seen again somehow.
Right.
And so now the Yorks, there's all this heat on from them.
Right.
The town hall has this giant meeting, probably brought on by the York money and influence,
Obviously.
and all of the other missing peoples that are coming up.
Right.
And they have this big, like, what is it, like 1,000 people at this big town hall meeting. And I guess Pa and John Jr. went to this meeting
Yeah.
just to look like they weren't,
Right.
extra suspicious by not being there.
Because if Kate would have went to represent them, that would have been odd
Right.
at that time.
Yeah, so they go to this meeting. They see that things are not good. There's a lot that maybe some people snooping around their farm soon
Yeah.
enough, because I guess there was a sheriff that was trying to get reelected, and he basically made it clear, like, look, we're just going to we're opening things up to where sheriffs and like investigators can just go onto anybody's property and search without a warrant if they want during this time.
It was getting that desperate for that town, yeah.
So that's what scared Pa, and John Jr. went back, told Kate, and then they decided, we got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And so they packed up their shit and left that night. And in the book, it was this whole big thing because Kate had made friends with a couple people, and then just now it was all this Mr. Pip
Yeah,
stuff.
there's apparently some doctor that was like experimenting on live human bodies, cutting their skulls and removing the skull cap and their brains exposed.
You
and
know
they
what,
can
man?
move their bodies like it's fucking Rick and Morty.
You know what, man? For Halloween season, it's a great book. I totally recommend it right now.
No, yeah.
If you like fiction at all and you like true crime, you'll like this
Yeah,
book.
once you get past that reader's voice, she was.
Or just read
she
the
was a
book
tough
itself
one.
instead of
Oh yeah,
doing the
just read the
audiobook.
book. Some people read. That's true.
Right.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. Okay, so they ditch town, and several days later, a neighbor notices that the Bender Inn was empty and animals unfed on the property.
Right.
And due to inclement weather, a search for the Bender's farm had to be postponed a little bit. When authorities finally entered the Bender house, they noticed a foul smell, and they found this trapdoor. Like I
Right.
said, I don't know how tricky this trapdoor. You had to have been able to see this thing.
Yeah.
And the foul smell was coming from within the trapdoor.
Right.
Now, when they went down there, they saw all the coagulated blood we talked about, the room covered in blood. And this is where the community's onto these people now.
Yep.
There's a crowd that forms, and they can't find any bodies immediately. They figured there'd be some down under the house
Right.
or whatever. So they actually pick the house up off the ground. They use like equipment to pick it up and move the entire house, and they start digging
Right.
like it's John Gacy's house. They start digging all underneath the house, thinking that's where the bodies are.
Right.
They find nothing.
No.
They find nothing, and then eventually they would search the. Things start to click, and they go, "Well, they got this
Right.
adjoining property with
Got
all
this garden. This garden is doing amazing over here.
There's all these weird rectangular spots where there's new growth,
It's weird. There's like grass around it, but those spots, there's none.
perfect square, like a body."
Right.
So they would start to dig in the garden, and they would find the body of Dr. York buried face down in a shallow grave. With some more searching, they would find 7 more bodies that night.
Right. You want to insert the book's version of how the bodies were discovered?
Yeah, go ahead.
It was pretty interesting. So apparently this reporter, got
LaFleur?
LaFleur, whatever. He got the balls to actually go out to the property at night. Remember this?
And he got
Remember
two.
this?
He got two big Irishmen.
He got
to
two
go
big
with him.
Irishmen, the Greens,
For
the Green
protection.
brothers.
Yeah.
he got them and went out there and literally started digging in the orchard. I guess he just nailed it. First try. Boom, an arm. And like, so he pulls up this arm, but it's already too late. The Bender's already like on him.
He's high-fiving with the dead arm.
Yeah, he's
But Mr. Pips blew their cover.
yeah. Apparently, Mr. Pips like woke up Kate
Yep.
and pointed to the garden or whatever
They came up with rags soaked in
Chloroform. Yeah.
Knocked him out.
that mom made.
Yeah, the book got crazy, man.
And then they threw him in the hole with like the doctor or whatever.
Yeah.
Like rubbed his face in his chest cavity and covered him full of dirt again.
Right.
I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, so back to the real story.
Right. Back to the real story. That was the fun part though.
They searched the garden. They would find 8 bodies the first day, I believe, all of which had the same way of death. They'd been struck in the head with a hammer. They
Right.
could see like skull fracture,
Yeah.
and then a slit throat.
Right.
And the only difference was the 18-month-old launcher girl who had her I guess she was like unharmed. Other than I think it was just
I
strangulation or
think
something. They couldn't find any.
According to the book, Kate strangled her because
Right.
Paul was going to beat her. That's crazy, man. This
Yeah.
man just must have been full of fucking rage.
Right. Well, either way, they could.
Either way, they're all fucked up. But
I mean, I get at a certain point you're in so deep that you can't have any witnesses and whatnot. But
18 months old, you could just raise her as her own. I mean,
make her the next Bender protege.
I mean, Jesus, I don't know. I guess that's better. I don't know.
Man, like times were just so brutal though. Like this poor little girl, like she had never had a mom.
Yeah.
Her dad was probably distraught about that, and like they're traveling, and then this happens. It's just like,
Well,
She
they
has to
were
witness it.
never supposed to be a target.
I would hope
something
not, but
went
maybe
wrong.
I don't know. According to the book, they weren't, but
I don't think they were, man. I don't know. I like to think that they weren't, but
yeah, you'd
Who
like to
knows?
think higher of the Benders, at least. Kate
apparently, I don't know why.
Bender. Yeah. Ultimately, after excavating the whole property, 10 bodies would be found, but they would end up attributing 21 murders to the family based off of people coming up missing
I think
and
that's
tracking
freaking
them.
low. I think that's low.
Yeah, well, how long were they on the farm? Like a year or something during all this? It wasn't even that long that they were there, but you would think people were coming down the path probably every day.
Oh, yeah, all the
And if you're
time.
picking even like 1 out of 3, that's a lot of people.
Hell yeah.
And they easily could have taken the bodies elsewhere or buried them in a different place. It was
Or
hard to
they've been,
find.
or they were there so long they decomposed or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, you have, what do we say, 320 acres worth of land that they had.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of places.
Absolutely.
Now you can go and see, like, it's all jacked up now, the actual thing, but they've recreated it, I think, in a museum. They've recreated the
Where's it
Bender-
at? Do you
In
know?
Kansas.
Oh, okay,
I don't
cool.
remember what part of Kansas, but anyways, you can go see like the recreated version of the Bender farm and the
God.
Bender Inn.
Yeah.
And you can walk around. And
They
they've
got the sheet in there and stuff?
Yeah, and they've got even like clay models of like Pa and Pa.
Okay. So that must have been what the pictures were because I saw some pictures on Google. I was just trying to get an idea of what the shop looked like.
They don't
There
even
were
have
some,
like real
layouts and stuff.
pictures. They don't even have real pictures of the Benders. They've got like
Right.
drawings and like
Yeah.
recreations. And in the drawing, Kate looks exactly like Princess Leia. It's kind of strange. She looks pretty there. It's obviously Princess Leia, but yeah,
That's how she killed everybody. She had the Force.
right.
God damn.
Yeah. And Mr. Pips, who was Yoda.
Oh, that's right. And her switchblade was actually a lightsaber.
Kill him, you will.
No wonder she killed everyone.
Yeah.
I sit down at the table.
So the family had jumped train. They were last seen on a train going to Texas. They were like, didn't they
Yeah, heading
split
in that
up?
direction, yeah.
Didn't they split up? Like two were seen going to Iowa, and the other two were to go to Texas or something.
Yeah. I
Long
think
story
at
short-
this point, Kate was kind of ready to get out, it seemed like.
Yeah. Long story short, they were never found. They were never brought
Nope.
to justice. 12 men would end up being arrested in connection with the Bender murders.
But I mean, what's the connection? Like you said earlier. I mean, yeah, that looks like the guy. Hang him.
Right, exactly.
You know, it was a lot of that shit going on. So who knows? And maybe one of those 12 men were Pa or
It
or
seems
John Jr.
unlikely with them only living there for like the year or two that they were there and coming from Europe. And
Yeah.
like, it seemed like they were very tight knit and that they only trusted each other. I can't see them bringing anyone else into the fold. It's a big risk
Yeah.
to take. So I just don't know what kind of connection they're talking about. Was it people that maybe had been there and witnessed something and didn't say anything? What?
Yeah, I don't know how you would do that.
Right.
Because as far as we know, there
Oh,
wasn't
that's
no one
what it
working
was.
for them.
They had received stolen goods. They were
Oh.
fences basically for their because they had all these. They're obviously bringing
Yeah.
in people.
Yep.
They have people riding in who have horses. They have
Yeah.
trailers, so they had to get rid of this stuff.
Yeah, they had certain people, no questions asked, would buy this stuff from them. Yeah.
So those are the people that would end up getting arrested. 12 different people. That's pretty
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
Yeah, the family's wagon was abandoned miles away from the train, from where the train station that they had hopped on was. So they'd ridden far away, walked another distance to a train.
Right.
They knew that people would trace their whereabouts as far as the first train they got on, so they
Yeah.
most likely divided, got onto different trains. And we've talked about this is the 1800s.
Right.
You pretty much just put a fake mustache on, say you're somebody else.
Put on that glass mustache nose thing and
Draw
just
yourself
walk around.
up. Draw yourself up a new ID.
Right. Just
By
draw
pencil.
it up on paper.
Right.
This looks like me.
Yeah.
Are you sure they didn't take a boat like the book said? That was way more exciting.
Oh my God! Yeah, like they were. Where did they say they were going? Colombia or something?
Yeah, they were
Some
taking-
island.
They were on like a smuggling ship.
Pirate ship. Yeah.
Smuggling ship. Yeah, and somehow that bounty hunter got on the ship
Yeah.
and was like trying to hunt them down like one by one.
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets attacked by Paul, and somehow Paul like blindsides him, and he drops his gun. So all he's got now is his Bowie knife, and Paul gets his gun, and he's holding it up to him. But then Paul's like, "Oh, he doesn't have anything, so I'm just gonna beat the shit out of him." So he like
Yeah.
walks towards him, and he like stabs Paul in the stomach and like rips his entire abdomen up to his throat.
Yeah.
Like it's so dramatic.
Oh, what about Kate's? What happened with
okay.
Kate? You got to talk about that. So in the book,
Yeah.
Kate ends
I
up.
was getting to that, but go ahead.
Go ahead. Mr. Pips shows up.
Well, you got to tell how Maul died first.
Ma.
Kate's the supreme. We got to save her.
So this what was his name? The guy that was tracing him the whole.
Johnson. That's his
Johnson.
last name. I don't know.
Yeah, he was he worked for a security company.
He's not real, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he'd follow their tracks, and he found them boarding this ship to get out of the country.
Right.
And he's on the deck fighting or whatever, and he has he found their bags down below, and he's got their bags filled with all their riches from all.
Yeah.
their
So
years of
after he
crime.
stabs Paul, and Paul's like insides are falling out and shit.
Mm-hmm.
Now Maul has the gun apparently, or she had her own pistol. I'm sure.
But he has their bag of money.
But he has their money, so he just starts throwing a couple bags. According to the book, he throws one bag off, and Maul's like, whatever, you know. And he throws two more, and she's like, no, and she dives, grabs the bags, and goes overboard in the worst storm you could imagine. Apparently, is what's happening right now.
Boat's just rocking back and forth.
Right. So now he's got his gun or whatever back from Paul, and he turns around, and there's one more bender left.
Kate
And she's standing there, just as calm and cool.
distracting him long enough
Right.
that Mr. Pips can come up from behind.
Yeah, old Mr. Pips still hanging out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Mr. Pips distracts him. He turns around, wastes his last bullet on Mr. Pips because he's like
Shoots
fog.
at his red eyes.
Yeah, he's like fucking missed, bro. You can't. And then Kate comes up,
Slits his throat.
gone, man. Just like that. He
And
went
then-
through all that shit. He met Jesse James. He was in multiple firefights.
And then Kate
Met some banditos.
becomes immortal. She becomes a Mr. Pips. She turns black, has
That's
the red
right.
eyes, and they fly off together.
After they make out for like 20 minutes.
We told everybody to go
sucking
get
each
this.
other's tongues.
We sit here and talk this book up and told everybody to go get it. We spoiled the entire book. Completely spoiled the entire
No,
book.
we didn't. There's a lot of like I was saying. There's the old bounty hunter. He comes across a lot of cool shit.
Still recommend the book. It was a lot of fun. But
Yeah.
the true story is good enough as is, though. I mean,
Yeah.
I like that we morphed this into like true story / fiction.
Yeah.
We brought the book
It was
into
fun.
it. I mean, the true story is nowhere near as epic. I mean, they just were never seen again,
Right.
which is kind of amazing. But at the same time, it's really not because it's 1800s, like we said. You just kind of disappear.
Right.
Just fucking disappear. Get a farm somewhere.
Yeah. Cut your hair.
Yeah.
Grow a beard.
I mean,
just walk away.
you go a couple counties away and no one cares anymore. Like
Right.
they don't have the internet. No one's heard of it. No one's tweeting about it. You're not trending.
You just start over new.
Right. The Bender. No, we hadn't even heard
You
of
are
it.
who you say you are. Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah. It's believed that they may have fled to a refugee colony for outlaws in Texas or New Mexico. Many groups or vigilantes formed and claimed they had found and killed the Benders. None of that has been confirmed. They claimed later on their deathbed, real conveniently, like,
Yeah.
I found them Benders and killed them.
Yeah. By the way,
Yeah, by the way, I'm breathing my last breath. I got them Benders.
by the way, I know you never think I never did nothing good, Mom, but you know I did catch them benders.
Yeah.
Sure you did. Son.
Oh, this is kind of crazy. In 1889, two women were extradited from Detroit on the charge that they were Kate and Ma Bender.
Yeah.
They were pointing fingers at each other, apparently. The young girl who was supposedly
Right.
Kate was pointing at Ma like, that's Ma Bender, and I'm her stepdaughter. I'm the sister of Kate or whatever. And then, of course, the supposed Ma was saying, no, that's Kate right there. And it was this whole stupid thing. They were never positively identified as the Bender women, and
How
they were
could they?
eventually released.
How could they?
Right.
You know, there's no way to.
Yeah.
And they like if this was anywhere, you know, anywhere close to recent times, they would have been caught so many times. Because like when they moved, they left all of their shit there, pretty much, like all their weapons, all their hammers with blood all over them,
Yeah,
fingerprints. They just left all that shit.
You can go to the museum in Kansas, and they have the
mallets are
they have
still there,
three
right?
different hammers.
Yeah.
Like in a display case. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I wonder if that knife is still there.
If we do go to Kansas on a trip, we definitely got to hit this place.
Yeah, we should.
I don't know. I just loved it. I love studying this one. It's just so eerie. It's perfect times, mid-October right now.
Yeah.
It was a fun story.
It was definitely good.
There's a lot of
It was a good
legend.
book. It
A lot
was
of
fun.
legend to it. This really did happen, though. These
Yeah.
were real serial killers that killed anywhere from 10 to 21 people.
Yep.
Pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. The sauerkrauts of Kansas.
Sauerkrauts.
Yeah.
Sauerkraut.
So any
benders.
last thoughts on this one? Kate, pretty legendary because it was a lot. Oftentimes, it was when people would first hear about it, they assumed it was like Ma and Pa that were doing, but it was Kate that was
Right.
the real conspiratorial.
Mom and Pa were
Version of
just
the family.
rebels, man.
Yeah.
Without Kate, they would have been caught a long time ago because they were just rebels. They just didn't give a shit.
Right.
They were careless.
Yeah.
And John Jr. I don't know, he may or may not have been smart enough.
This to me is
be
much
by himself.
more of the real story of Chainsaw Massacre than the Ed Gein one is. For some reason, Ed Gein gets attributed to like the true Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Right.
story, but the Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, they're more about the fucking creepy family. You know,
Yeah.
not to think that the Benders were eating people, that there wasn't any of that.
Right.
There was never any legend that said they were cannibals and they were Ma stew had the victim's meat in it.
No.
But could have,
Could have. Very
But
well
either way,
could've.
this is a creepy
You
family.
could really save money that way.
Yeah, but either way, this is a creepy family that would sit down to eat with you and kill you. You know, like it's I don't know. It's very.
But I heard they had a pretty successful farm, so I doubt they were eating people. They got all those pigs and cows.
Yeah.
Yeah, animals lived very well on their farm, but
Yeah,
people
supposedly
did
pigs,
not, though.
Supposedly
So,
pigs had a great stay there. They had in the book it said that John Jr. took special care of the pigs, and if there was any babies that died, he would cry about it and stuff.
And then one turned on him and freaking knocked his ass out.
Right? Yeah, so that is the Bloody Benders. We hope you guys really enjoyed it. Kind of a shorter episode, but it was action packed.
Action packed. That's why we like it.
And now we got some shout outs. Last week, our Patreon exclusive episode went real well. People enjoyed it. It was the Ruby Ridge is the case that we did. And some people were like, I thought it was going to be boring. I loved it.
No,
It was our take on Ruby Ridge. You know, we do shit a little bit differently over here.
Yeah.
And we kind of tied in the Oklahoma City bombing.
Right.
And
Waco as well.
Waco, Texas into it a little bit. So we
Right.
got a kind of a trifecta episode.
Hell yeah.
You know, the white
It was a lot of
separatists.
fun. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
When I dug into it, I mean, there's some great documentaries on Ruby Ridge.
Yeah.
Go watch those, and then you'll be like, oh, I got to hear it.
Yeah, so if you're not on board with Patreon yet, patreon.com/truecrimeguys for $2 a month right now. You get
right.
the Ruby Ridge trifecta with Waco and Oklahoma City. You get
Tookie Williams.
Tookie Williams.
That was one of my favorite episodes
You
ever.
get Jeffrey Dahmer. You get John Wayne Gacy.
Yep.
You get who else? We've done at least a couple more in there.
the great Gambino, man.
Oh yeah, Gary Ridgway.
Gary Ridgway.
Yeah, you get some like custom artwork.
Slender Man.
You get some custom artwork that we've done on there. We're going to do our first live stream today. We're going to try that out. You can do beta live stream on Patreon just for Patreon
Right.
members. There's a lot of extra stuff on there for $2 a month right now. So go check that out. Just to be do a shameless plug for Patreon.
Hey, man. That's what you got. That's what we do. We're not big on social media, you know.
Right, and Mike
I
puts a
noticed
little
that.
extra into those episodes as far as
I
the
do.
production value. The intros
Heart
are
and soul and
even,
creativity.
The intros are even crazier.
Even crazier.
Yeah.
As if they could get it crazier.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, go over to the patreon.com/truecrimeguys. Guys. Hit us up on social media, Twitter
Mm-hmm.
at True Crime Guys, Instagram at True Crime Guys. We have email,
Yeah.
truecrimeguys@gmail.com if you want to send us suggestions for shows.
Right. What else we got? man?
Definitely big thanks to everybody that's gone and rated and reviewed on iTunes. We're going
Right.
to give a shout to we haven't done this in a while and shouted out people that have done it. We've been getting a lot lately. We really appreciate it. We've noticed
do.
we've noticed the influx. It definitely helps the show.
Right. Just going and just clicking a star rating is so huge, guys.
Right.
It really is. You don't have to type anything.
But if you do type something, we'll give you a shout out, which is what we're
Absolutely.
going to do right now. So in the last few weeks, these are some of the people who have rated and reviewed on iTunes. You suck.
Oh, that
That's-
sounds like our review.
That's his name on iTunes. It was
Oh.
actually a 5-star good review.
I think that's a subliminal review. You probably made that name just to give us a review.
5 stars. Love it. You suck.
Right.
Emerson09, Fuzzy Naval 86, Cato, Kalen, we know who that is, Brad.
Right.
What's up, Cato? Let's see, AimX 4754, Keely, Maria Loves Charlie,
Nailed
thank
it.
you. Irish J,
Okay.
Juno Darling,
It's a cool name, Irish J.
Aiden's Nan, H Chaya,
Right.
H Chia,
Okay.
Just Marie, Christy 1441, Tegan Melster, and the J Scorpio. Thank
Cool.
you all for your.
You should
iTunes
read your
reviews.
favorite one. What's your favorite one on there? If you had to take a look.
I'm gonna pick
I think
one.
we got another one that talked about that we were like little brothers again. We got a lot of
How about
shit.
this one? How about this one?
All right.
3 stars.
Okay.
Okay if you like immaturity. Not
Yeah.
very impressed.
Nailed it.
Right. No, that was the one 3-star we've gotten. The rest are 5 stars. So
Oh,
thank you
okay.
guys very much.
Right.
I like the ones that where people binged. This one from Juno Darling. I've binged this podcast and I wait every week with bated breath and squeal with joy when a new episode releases. They're funny and they make murder charming. Juno Darling.
Nice.
And that's at Juno Darling on Twitter if you want to go talk about us together on Twitter.
Cool. Not like you talk about anything else.
Right. We also have a P.O. box. If you ever want to send us anything, we'll talk about what you send us, whether it's a turd box or
Yeah.
cake or
We've
whatever.
been sent a potato before. That was pretty cool.
My 30th birthday's coming if you want to send me a gift.
Yeah. That's right. We like food too.
Yeah.
And alcohol.
Also, big shout out to 1 second.
Oh, what is it? You got to look it up.
The Serial Chillers podcast, another true
okay.
crime podcast. One of our listeners hit us up and said, "Hey, I heard about you guys through Serial Chillers podcast."
Oh, nice.
So apparently
thanks.
they're talking about us on their show. So I'll definitely
That's a cool name.
earn a big plug. So go check out the Serial Chillers podcast.
Hell yeah.
Anybody else?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, well let's
We're gonna
do
go into our segment.
shit we got wrong.
We got
Cue the music. Mikey
got a
Wild.
few things.
Mikey Wild talked about a few weeks back. We made a joke about how it's cooling down here in
Right.
Vegas, but it's still probably the hottest shit to someone from Wisconsin or
Yeah.
whatever. And he was like, actually, it's been 90 in Wisconsin.
And we're like, actually, we're not the fucking Weather Channel, bro.
we can't keep up with everybody's climates, but thanks anyway. Mikey.
We realize it gets hot there.
Right.
At some point in time.
Kind of.
Right.
90's pretty cool for us, but whatever, bro.
Whoa.
Sam Perry Cook, or at High Strung Blues,
Our number one heckler.
our number one heckler, cunty comments.
Yeah. We're actually shouting this out because it's something he thought we got wrong, but we didn't.
Right.
So
Don't talk about the Carolinas to
Right.
Michael. He's been there, okay?
That's right, bitch. So we're giving him a straight up fuck you on the podcast. Hashtag
Things
Cunty podcast.
Hashtag things Sam got wrong.
That's right.
What was it that he said? Columbia was
Yeah,
it?
he said that we meant Columbia, South Carolina, not North Carolina. Actually, we did not. But Columbia, South Carolina is a much bigger city. You know, it's a college town. That's where USC is and all that good stuff. So, you know, Columbia, North Carolina is closer to the coast. It's a little nothing town.
Yeah, so look, Sam, we
But
get
it
plenty
is.
wrong. Just
Right.
pick something we actually
Pick
got
something
wrong.
we actually got wrong. There's a shit ton of it.
Right. Don't pick something that we can go, actually, bro, fuck
Actually,
you.
because I'm definitely going to do it if I can.
Yeah. Other than that, stickers. If you want stickers, we still got plenty.
That's
Whether you want the, let us know whether you want the cult shit sticker, the original True Crime Guys creeper van sticker, or
Right.
both.
Or both,
We'll send you
whatever.
either. Basically, just go to truecrimeguys.com, click on stickers at the top. There's a little tab.
Yep.
Donate a couple bucks, and we'll send you some stickers with a personal note and everything. And
Right.
Michelle's note cards that she made for us.
Oh, yeah,
custom.
those things
Pretty
are
badass.
awesome.
Yeah.
Also on the website, you can hear all of our episodes.
Yeah.
I'm still getting people messaging me privately, which is cool. No big deal. I don't mind taking time out of my day. You know what I'm saying?
Someone
But
messaged and
you
said
can go
that
on there and hear all of them.
Someone said that before Randy Kraft is the first one. That is our first official True Crime Guys episode. We deleted the ones that were True Crime Las Vegas
Right.
a while back. So yeah, it starts at Randy Kraft. That's where
Right.
we like really became what we are now.
Yeah, we had like 4 episodes where we were True Crime Las Vegas.
We were
if
still
you guys
feeling
don't
things
know.
out.
Yeah, we're still filling things out, and then we changed to True Crime Guys. So the very first actual True Crime Guys episode is Randy Kraft. If you don't see that, go on truecrimeguys.com or Podbean. Download the Podbean app and follow us on there or whatever. That's the best way to do it. Because for some reason, iTunes, Stitcher, everything cuts off our
Right.
shows. I'm sure they do it to everybody, but
Yep.
at least I hope so.
Yep.
Holes.
So, is that it?
I think that's it, man. I think we've
We love you all. Thank you
Jam-packed
all
it.
for your support. Thanks for all the posts on social media, sharing the show with your friends and everything. Talk about it to a friend.
that's right.
Find out somebody likes creepy shit.
Hell yeah.
Let them know.
That's right. Word of mouth, babe.
And all right, that's it. See you guys next week. Keep creeping.
Keep creeping.
It's killing me. Take